Have you ever felt that gut-wrenching emptiness watching the woman you desire walk away with another man while you stand there, invisible like a ghost condemned to observe from the shadows? You're about to discover something that defies everything you thought you knew about female desire. I'm not talking about cheap tricks or lies, but an ancient truth that 97% of men are unaware of. A primitive dance between bodies and minds that transforms attraction into obsession. Society programmed you to fail. It taught you the wrong path. But today, all of that ends. If what I'm saying already gives you that shiver of recognition, hit that like button right now, because what I'm about to reveal could change forever how you relate to women. It's not manipulation. It's a deep understanding of what truly activates desire. Prepare to awaken the sleeping monster within you. True seduction doesn't begin with a simple, polite hello that vanishes into thin air without a trace. That's the fatal error made by invisible men, those who get lost in a sea of emotional mediocrity. Authentic seduction begins with a fracture in the expected, a spark in the silence that awakens something dormant in her, something primitive that society has taught her to repress, but that still beats beneath layers of social conditioning. Forget everything you were told about traditional introductions. Forget that robotic, "How are you?" that dies the moment it's uttered. The first move isn't about being nice or harmless. It's about taking control of the emotional rhythm from the first second, about establishing that you are not just another in the herd of predictable men who approach her with the same worn-out lines she's heard 1,000 times. Imagine approaching her, but instead of being predictable like everyone else, you say something like, "You look like someone who hates superficial conversations, but secretly loves chaos." In that moment, something changes in her expression. She pauses, blinks, her brain activating like an engine that just received high-octane fuel. Why does this happen? Because you've interrupted her automatic pattern, that mental filter programmed to automatically discard generic men. In that instant, you are no longer one of them. You've made her curious, and curiosity is the gateway drug to desire. This is what most men never understand. The first sentence is the foundation of the entire game that follows. It's like the opening move in chess. It sets the tempo for the whole match. It defines the emotional battlefield. If you open weak with something common and predictable, you've already put yourself on the defensive. You'll spend the rest of the interaction chasing her, trying to regain lost ground. But if you open strong, with something unexpected, poetic or slightly absurd, you gain frame control. Now she's in your world, playing by your rules. This is movement. It's not about what exactly you say. It's about how sharply you cut through the everyday noise. It's about projecting a clear psychological signal. I'm not here to impress you with desperation. I'm here to see if you're worth the game. And this isn't just verbal, it's energetic. It's your tone, your timing, the deliberate calm in your speech, that slight smile as if you already know how this is all going to end. Men who approach with high-frequency, predictable phrases are dismissed by her subconscious in seconds. But a man who walks with a sense of controlled unpredictability, he becomes a question she wants to answer. Never forget this. Women are attracted to what they don't immediately understand. So be the enigma, be the disruption. Be the man who speaks not to impress with pretty words, but to provoke something within her that she had forgotten she could feel. Have you noticed how women react to men obsessed with their work, their art, their mission? They criticize them. Yes, they complain that they don't pay them enough attention, but they never leave them. They never leave them because deep down they know that being with a man who has something more important than them is the greatest feminine privilege. It's paradoxical. She wants to be the most important thing in your life, but she'll despise you if she gets it. This is the trap you fell into. You made her your world, and in doing so, you showed her that your world was very small. So small it fit entirely in her hands. So small she could crush it whenever she wanted. Think about the last time you walked into a car showroom. The salesperson who harassed you, who stuck to you like a shadow, who kept asking, "Do you like it? Do you want to test drive it? What do you think?" He radiated a desperation you could smell, and you instantly had the advantage because his need diminished his value in your eyes. Now imagine another salesperson. He greets you calmly, elegantly shows you the car, then quietly withdraws. He knows what he's offering. He knows you'll feel it if it's right for you. Suddenly, you feel the need to prove you're worthy of the deal. You start asking questions. You start justifying your interest. It's exactly the same in seduction. When you show that your life is complete, rich in purpose, full of joy, anchored in strength, with or without her, you become the prize, not the desperate hunter, not the emotional beggar pleading for attention. Women don't chase men they pity. They chase men they respect, men who represent something they desire to achieve or experience. That first move, that unexpected opening, is just the beginning of a dance that defies everything you were taught about how female desire works. When your first move makes her stop and think, when you interrupt that automatic filter she uses to dismiss ordinary men, when you awaken her genuine curiosity instead of her automatic politeness, the game is already yours. You have planted the seed of desire in fertile ground, and now you just need to cultivate it with mastery. This is where the entire foundation of attraction begins to harden into something unbreakable, something untouchable, something extraordinarily rare in the modern world. Confidence is not what you say, it's what you don't need to say. True confidence is silent. It walks unannounced, speaks slowly, moves with certainty, and above all, it doesn't fear loss. You see, she perceives everything before you open your mouth. She reads your essence. She observes how you sit, how long you maintain eye contact, whether your presence fills the room or begs for space. That's the attitude you need to embody. I don't need you, but I'm not afraid of you either. This is the posture that turns the entire power dynamic on its head. And once you learn it, she begins to qualify herself to you instead of you having to prove your worth to her. How do you radiate this attitude through your body? Because words lie, but energy never lies. Shoulders relaxed, yet strong. Upright posture that speaks of dignity. Unwavering eye contact that doesn't apologize for existing. Slow, steady breathing. Precise and intentional movements, as if you own time itself. No trembling hands, no nervously bouncing legs, no fast, anxious speech. You speak as if you trust your silence, because studies show that over 90% of communication is nonverbal. She doesn't just hear you, she feels you in every fiber of her being. And if your energy says, "Please love me," she will pull away, even if your words say something completely different. But if your presence says, "You are welcome to join me, but I will not bend for approval," she leans in because detachment is intoxicating. It's addictive. It's what most men never manage to convey. This is the paradox that changes everything. The less you seek validation, the more your value multiplies in her eyes. So remember, don't chase her attention, chase your own inner power, because when a man becomes magnetic from within, everything outside begins to orbit around him as if he were the gravitational center of his own universe. Schopenhauer knew it. Love is the species' deception to stay alive, but he fell short. Love is not just deception, it is war. And in this war, the civilized man always loses. Do you know what a woman truly seeks when she says she wants emotional connection? She wants to feel, not think. And the most powerful feelings don't come from security. They come from uncertainty, from risk, from controlled danger. Napoleon conquered Europe, but he couldn't conquer Josephine. Why? Because he needed her more than she needed him. He wrote desperate letters from the battlefield while she slept with others in Paris. The emperor of the world reduced to an emotional beggar. Does that sound familiar? Of course it does, because you too have begged. You have pleaded for crumbs of attention while she offered banquets to those who never asked for anything. The monster doesn't beg. The monster is hungry, but not for her. It's hungry for conquest, for purpose, for power. And that hunger, the one she cannot satisfy, is exactly what drives her crazy. Women are not masochists. They are unconscious evolutionary strategists. Their biology programs them to seek the man whose attention is valuable because it is scarce. If your attention is free, unlimited, unconditional, then it is worthless. It's basic economics applied to desire. Remember when you were a child and you wanted that toy you couldn't have? How you desired it with every fiber of your being? And do you remember what happened when you finally got it? In 2 weeks it was forgotten in a corner. You are that available, predictable, forgettable toy. The man with attitude is the toy behind the glass, always visible, never completely attainable. Hierarchy exists, whether you like it or not. In every human interaction, it's decided who leads and who follows. And in your relationship, even if you're the CEO of a company, even if you earn millions, even if you're 6.5 feet tall, she leads. How do I know? Because the one who needs more always loses power, and you need her like air. She knows it, she smells it, she uses it. The man with attitude reverses the equation. Not because he doesn't feel, he feels deeply, but his life doesn't depend on those feelings. He can love and lose and still be himself. That emotional self-sufficiency is the most powerful aphrodisiac there is. He who loves most suffers most, said some suicidal poet. He was right, but he drew the wrong conclusion. The answer is not to stop loving. It's to love from abundance, not from scarcity. You love like a beggar, desperate, grateful for any crumb, terrified of losing the little you have. The man with attitude loves like a king, generous because he can afford it, selective because he has options, calm because he knows that if this woman leaves, others will come. It's not arrogance, it's reality. The man who builds himself up, who has purpose, who doesn't beg for validation, will always have options. And women know it, they feel it, and they compete to be chosen by him, while you compete with all the men in the world for a woman who no longer desires you. Nature is wise and cruel. It rewards the strong and punishes the weak. And the greatest weakness is not physical or financial. It's emotional, it's needing too much. It's being unable to be alone. It's defining yourself by who loves you instead of by who you are. The man with attitude is comfortable in his own skin, alone or with company, loved or rejected. His value doesn't rise and fall with the emotional stock market of his relationship. Yours does, rising and crashing like Bitcoin on a panic day. There's an exact moment when you lost, a moment you can trace if you're honest. The moment you stopped being her lover and became her emotional child. It was when you started asking permission instead of informing her of decisions, when you started asking, "Is this okay?" instead of saying, "I'm going to," when your happiness began to depend on her mood. Women don't want emotional children. They have enough with the biological ones. From a man, they want a potential father, not another child, to care for. This is the most counterintuitive of all the pillars, the seductive art of taking a step back right at the peak of connection. Not because you don't care, but because you understand one of the most powerful truths about female desire. Nostalgia creates obsession. Emptiness generates desperate longing. You know that perfect moment when the conversation flows effortlessly, when smiles come naturally, when she's completely present with you, engrossed in your presence, hanging on every word that comes out of your mouth. That's not the time to push forward and squeeze every last drop out of that connection. That's the time to leave, to disappear, just when everything feels most alive and promising. Yes, exactly, at the high point, just when it feels most electric and full of possibilities. You simply say, "I'd love to stay longer, but I have to go. Let's continue this another time." What happens next is not logical. It's completely chemical and primitive. Her brain releases a considerable amount of dopamine, and then you disappear. You've just become the episode that ends on a cliffhanger, the song that cuts off at the best part, the book that closes just when the plot gets interesting. Think of the last addictive series you watched. It didn't explain everything. It didn't resolve all the storylines. It left you hungry for more. That's what you need to become. Not the 3-hour movie that drags on until everyone loses interest, but the tense, suspenseful episode that leaves her breathless and counting the days until the next season. This means you don't respond the moment she texts you. You don't answer every call as if you're waiting by the phone. You live your life. You move through your world like a man on a mission, a man who has options, purpose, his own gravity. When she notices your absence, her emotional radar activates in a way she cannot control. Where are you? Who are you with? Why haven't you responded? And in that moment, she's not just thinking about you, she's feeling you. Now you're looping in her mind, playing your voice, rereading your last text as if it were a secret code she needs to decipher. This is the crucial shift when she starts chasing, not out of strategy, but out of tension, unresolved emotion, a craving for resolution. That's what most men never understand. They stay too long, respond too quickly, eliminate all tension, and in doing so, they kill desire in its cradle. But you will learn to step away with elegance, to leave her with a taste, not the full meal, to create silences that resonate louder than words, because that is the most beautiful and cruel paradox. The less she has of you, the more she will need you. This isn't blind arrogance, it's not calculated manipulation. This is pure psychology applied with mastery. And the man who masters it doesn't chase like a desperate predator. He attracts by releasing, pulls by letting go, conquers by withdrawing at the perfect moment. Do you know what kills more relationships than infidelity? Predictability. The existential boredom of knowing exactly what you'll do, say, think. You are a movie she has seen 1,000 times, and it wasn't even very good the first time. The man who practices strategic neglect is a series full of plot twists, not out of artificiality, but out of authenticity. Because a man who pursues his own interests, who grows, who changes, who evolves, is inherently unpredictable. You stopped growing the day you conquered her. You rested on your laurels. You got comfortable. You became emotionally fat, predictable as the seasons. Schopenhauer wrote, "To conquer without risk is to triumph without glory." But you didn't even conquer. You were given territory and called it victory. And now you wonder why she wants to migrate to wilder lands. The man who practices strategic neglect never stops conquering, not necessarily other women. He conquers new territories within himself, new skills, new challenges, new versions of what he can become. That conquering energy is what women find irresistible. Not the result, but the process. Masculine energy in its purest state that transforms, that builds, that destroys the old to create the new. You destroyed that energy the day you said, "I've got her, now I can relax." As if feminine desire were an exam you pass once and for all. As if it weren't a fire that needs constant fuel, and your fuel ran out years ago. The man who masters strategic neglect is an infinite fuel refinery because his fire doesn't burn for her, it burns for himself. She simply enjoys the warmth when she gets close enough. But you burned all your fire trying to keep her warm, and now you are both cold. The most brutal truth, she didn't leave you for another man. She left you for the hope of finding another. The fantasy of another man was worth more than your reality. It hurts, doesn't it? Good. Pain is the only honest teacher. The void you create with your strategic absence is not cruelty. It's space for desire to grow. It's a blank canvas where she projects her fantasies about you. It's the negative space that defines the form, the absence that gives meaning to presence. Have you noticed how she behaves with the man who doesn't respond to her messages immediately? How she obsessively checks her phone? How every message from him is worth 100 of yours? It's not that he's better than you. It's that he understands, consciously or unconsciously, that female desire operates on tension, not satisfaction. You eliminate all tension, you respond in seconds, you're always available. You are an open faucet of attention and affection, and then you wonder why she'd rather die of thirst than drown in your ocean. Nietzsche cried, "God is dead," but he forgot to add, "and with him died the last man women could respect." The man who practices strategic neglect is more subtle, more lethal. He is the man who can destroy and chooses to build, who can hurt and chooses to heal, but she knows he could destroy. That latent power is what excites her. Why do you think women fantasize about vampires, mobsters, dangerous men who are tamed? It's not the violence that attracts them, it's the contained power, the beast who chooses to be a prince, but who could revert to a beast if the situation required it. You have no beast. You killed it years ago on the altar of the modern sensitive man. You sacrificed it to be accepted, loved, validated, and with it died your deepest appeal. Take the initiative and escalate the interaction when necessary, without paralyzing doubts. This is the moment of truth where most men fail miserably, where all previous pillars collapse if you don't have the courage to act. You created attraction, built emotional tension, played the game of detachment. Now you need to act decisively. And here's where fear appears in all its ugliness. Fear of rejection, fear of ruining everything you've built, fear of being seen as invasive or inappropriate. But let me tell you a secret that will transform your perspective forever. Women want you to take the initiative. They fantasize about a man who knows what he wants and isn't afraid to go for it, without apologizing for his masculinity. Almost no one realizes this, but hesitation kills more opportunities than rejection itself. When you feel the moment is right, act without asking permission, without asking if you can. You read her signals and move forward with the confidence of someone who understands the silent language of desire. It could be taking her hand as you walk. It could be pulling her closer during a conversation. It could be that kiss at the perfect moment when silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. Calculated audacity is what separates men from boys playing at being men. It's what makes her mention you to her friends the next day. It's what creates impactful memories she can't forget even if she wanted to. Are you ready for this level of intensity and commitment? Now I know what you must be thinking, and let's clarify it once and for all. This is not manipulation in the toxic sense of the word. It's not being a heartless jerk. Manipulation is when you lie, deceive, or do something against her will. What I'm teaching you is exactly the opposite. It's about being authentic in your masculinity, understanding what truly creates attraction, and acting accordingly with that understanding. Think with me. When a woman puts on makeup, chooses a beautiful outfit, wears a special perfume, is she being manipulative? Of course not. She is presenting herself in the best possible way. She is using tools to become more attractive. That's exactly what you are doing, using psychological tools to awaken genuine attraction. It's not about deceiving anyone or creating a false persona. It's about being the best version of yourself, the most authentic and powerful. And let me tell you something few men know. Women want to be seduced. They dream about it, they read books about it, they watch movies about it, but they want to be seduced by a real man, not by an insecure guy who apologizes for existing, not by a man who is afraid of his own shadow. They want to feel that chill in their stomach, that tension in the air, that play of glances that says more than 1,000 empty conversations. And when you master the secret code I'm revealing to you, you become that man. You become the guy they can't get out of their head, the mystery that keeps them awake thinking. Remember that chess metaphor I mentioned at the beginning? Every interaction with a woman is a game, and while most men play defensively, afraid of losing the queen, you will be 3 moves ahead. You'll know when to advance, when to retreat, when to sacrifice a piece to win the entire game. And most importantly, you will play to win, not to avoid losing. There's an abysmal difference between these two mindsets. Playing not to lose is what keeps you in the friend zone. It's what makes you afraid to take risks. It's what leaves you paralyzed in inaction. Playing to win is taking calculated risks. It's understanding that some defeats are part of the learning process. It's knowing that every no brings you closer to a definitive yes. And here's another secret that almost no one applies in real life. The more you practice, the more natural all of this becomes. At first it may feel strange. It may feel as if you are playing a role that isn't yours. But over time, these behaviors become part of who you truly are. You no longer need to think about every move. Your instinct already knows what to do without your conscious mind interfering. It's like learning to drive. At first you think about every action. Clutch, gear, accelerator, brake. After a while, you do it all automatically while chatting with the passenger. Seduction works the same way. The more you practice the pillars of the system I'm revealing to you, the more natural they become, to the point where you no longer need to think. You simply are this high-value man. Is there a point where audacity transforms into invasion? Of course, and it's crucial to understand it. Calculated audacity is not brute force. It's not ignoring her signals or imposing yourself. It's reading the subtle language of her body, her eyes, her micro-expressions, and acting accordingly. If she pulls back, you pull back. If she shows discomfort, you adjust your approach. True audacity always goes hand in hand with sensitivity. It's not a hammer, it's a scalpel. Precise, elegant, effective. Women have a radar for detecting desperation. They can smell it like sharks smell blood, and they flee from it with the same intensity. The difference between audacity that attracts and invasion that repels is neediness. If you act out of need, out of scarcity, out of fear of losing her, she will feel it and pull away. If you act from abundance, from confidence, from the certainty that you will be fine with or without her, she will be magnetically attracted. It's the fundamental paradox of seduction. You can only attract her when you don't need to attract her. You can only win her when you're not afraid to lose her. You can only seduce her when your happiness doesn't depend on her. Now let's talk about something crucial that most people overlook: the magnetic touch. This has nothing to do with uncontrolled lust. It's not about groping or forcing situations. This is an ancestral ritual, a primitive language that transcends words. Touch is humanity's oldest language, older than words, deeper than logic. It bypasses the mind and speaks directly to the subconscious where real decisions are made. But here's the secret that changes everything. She's not attracted to the touch itself. She's attracted to the way it happens, its perfect timing, its rhythm, its clear intention. The right touch at the right moment can bind a memory to her body in a way that will last forever. But the wrong touch, the rushed, the forced, kills everything instantly. How does it begin then? Not with blind audacity, but with calculated innocence. A light touch on her shoulder as you laugh at something she said. A hand gently guiding her through a doorway. A slow, playful high five that lingers for half a second longer than normal. Moments that feel natural but leave an indelible mark. You escalate not through pressure, but through presence. You touch and then withdraw. And that withdrawal is everything. It creates absence, and absence creates craving. This is what most men never understand. The touch isn't about the contact, it's about what happens in the moment after. Because when you touch and then stop, her body feels the silence and begins to miss you before you've even left. This is the intermittent touch, the psychological equivalent of a heartbeat. On, off, near, far, safe, dangerous. It builds tension she cannot name. It floods her system with oxytocin and dopamine, the same chemicals released during pleasure and connection. But you're not connecting. You're imprinting yourself on her nervous system like a mark she can never erase. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more natural it seems, the more powerful it becomes. You shouldn't telegraph intention. You shouldn't hesitate. You touch like a man who has done it 1,000 times. Not because you're desperate, but because you are self-possessed. Your hand doesn't ask permission, it reads her reaction. If she leans into you, you know it. If she pulls back, you adapt. Because masculine touch is not invasive, it's observant. It listens with the skin. And when used correctly, it makes her feel something terribly rare in the modern world. A man who is in control of himself and attuned to her at the same time. That is magnetic. That's what keeps her awake at night. Because long after the words are forgotten, she will remember how you made her feel, not in her mind, but in her body. Watch how women react to men who seem comfortable with physical contact, not the clumsy, the invasive, or the insecure ones who touch and then apologize, but those who have mastered that ancient language that speaks directly to our deepest instincts. Such a man generates involuntary physiological responses, pupil dilation, subtle blushing, micro-arousal that she can't even consciously control. Why? Because touch has been our first and most important communication system for millions of years of evolution. Before words, before symbols, before even complex gestures, there was touch. Babies who don't receive enough physical contact die even when adequately fed. That's how fundamental this language is to our species, and that's how powerful it is when you master it in the art of seduction. In the depths of the feminine soul lurks an unspeakable truth, a primordial hunger that no modernity has been able to tame, that dancing shadow between desire and rejection, that abyss between what her lips pronounce and what her body craves. Do you feel it? That tremor that runs down your spine when you understand that love is older than your words to name it, wilder than your attempts to contain it. Have you noticed how a woman's voice changes when she talks about the man who touches her in the right way? There's a different vibration, a resonance that doesn't appear when she mentions others. Her eyes look elsewhere, as if remembering not with her mind but with her skin. That is the power of magnetic touch when executed with mastery. The mistake most men make is approaching physical contact from need or their own desire. They touch to satisfy themselves, to calm their anxiety, to get, and she feels it immediately. The magnetic touch reverses this dynamic. You touch to give, to awaken, to communicate, not to take. It's like the difference between a novice pianist who plays mechanically, thinking about where to put their fingers, and a master who merges with the instrument, creating music that transcends the notes. Your touch must be music, not noise. It must be a conversation, not a monologue. It must be tactile poetry that she feels in every cell. And you know what? This isn't just about attraction. It's about genuine connection, about communication on a level that words can never reach. Because sincere touch, when received in the same way, creates a bridge between two people that the most elaborate romantic talk could never build. Magnetic touch is not technique, it is presence. It is not strategy, it is attunement. It is being so present in your body and so attentive to hers that a silent dialogue is created, an invisible dance that says more than 1,000 declarations of love. There's one last weapon you must master, one most men don't even think about. Cold reading isn't magic, it's precision. The silent art of reading what she wants before she even knows it, because every woman leaves subtle signals, not in her words, but in her patterns. The way she dresses, the speed of her voice, the rhythm of her walk, what she posts online, where she goes, what she avoids. You are no longer just a man. You are an emotional detective reading between the lines, tracking the energy behind the words, sensing the signals she doesn't say aloud. A woman who wears flashy, bright jewelry is screaming for attention. She wants the spotlight and confirmation that she still has it. A woman in subtle, elegant tones is deeper, more private. She yearns to be understood, not just superficially seen. Observe her manner of speaking. If she speaks fast, gesticulates widely, she is spontaneous, reactive, guided by pure feeling. If she speaks slowly, carefully, she is calculated, guarded, strategic in every movement. And when you adjust your energy to match her hidden nature, when you reflect what she truly needs without her asking, you become irresistible because you are not offering what she is consciously demanding. You are offering what she is secretly dying to receive. That is the real power. The understanding that every human being hungers for something they cannot even articulate. But here's the trap most men fall into. They try to do everything instantly. They gorge themselves on techniques, force results, imitate, act, perform a script that isn't their own. But this isn't acting. This is embodying your true masculine nature. So slow down. Start with just one pillar. Apply it for a week until it becomes real, until it becomes part of you. Then another and another, until the system is not something you memorize, but something you are. Because this method I am giving you is not about turning you into someone else. It's about liberating the real you, the alpha that society buried under years of shame, guilt, and conditioning, which made you believe that your masculinity was something to apologize for. Wake up once and for all. Time is slipping away while you stay there brooding, overanalyzing every possibility. Other men are already using this and getting results while you continue to watch, continue to doubt, continue to wonder if this really works. Ask yourself, in 5 years, do you want to be in exactly the same place with the same silent frustrations? Watching the woman you wanted in the arms of a man who simply knew how to move? Or do you want to be the man she can't forget? The man who never begs? The man who chooses instead of being chosen? The man who doesn't accept emotional crumbs? The man who creates attraction like clockwork? That choice is yours and always has been. But remember this as if your life depends on it. Knowledge without action is dead. You can consume 100 videos, read 100 books, but if you don't step into the ring, you will remain trapped in impotent theory forever. Here's the brutal truth no one wants to tell you. Most men who hear this will do nothing. They will remain the same. They will continue to be gentle to the point of invisibility. They will remain stuck in the maybe zone, the ghosting zone, the friend zone for all eternity. But not you. You are not most men. You are still here, still reading, still listening carefully. You can be the exception, the one who took this and transformed everything. So stop doubting. Stop blaming circumstances. Stop waiting for the perfect moment that will never come. She's not going to wait forever while you decide to act like the man you truly are inside. Desire thrives on unpredictability. Desire, like any human impulse, intensifies when the reward is not constant or guaranteed. If you are always available, if you are always the one initiating intimacy, if you are always willing to please, your reward loses value. Most men make the mistake of becoming constant pleasure dispensers, unaware that excessive availability kills longing. Machiavelli, a master at using reward to maintain loyalty or, in this case, desire, would say, "Men love at their convenience, but fear your discretion." In this context, the fear is her fear of not knowing when or if that reward, your desire, will return. Your mistake. You become an inexhaustible source of sexual attention, a faucet she can turn on at will. The Machiavellian solution. Administer your reward selectively. This doesn't mean denying her sex or affection. It means that access to your intimacy, your desire, your sexual energy is not a right. It is earned and must be maintained. Create moments of intensity. Then pull back with subtle distance. Let her miss you. Let her crave the next encounter. Don't always be the one to initiate. Let her chase you. Let her feel that she must earn your attention, that she must remind you why she excites you. When desire is not guaranteed, when there is enough uncertainty about when and how the spark will return, she invests more in you. Her mind becomes obsessed with winning your attention. with reconquering your desire. The scarcity of reward activates her dopamine system, creating a cycle of craving and satisfaction that keeps her constantly wanting more of you. You become the only man who gives her that dopamine rush that never settles into monotony. Is this manipulation? Let me answer clearly and unequivocally. No. Allow me to define harmful manipulation: lying, deceiving, coercing to control another person, stripping them of their will and using them for personal gain, causing harm. That is not what we are doing here. What we have discussed is reading the terrain, understanding the nature of human desire, recognizing the psychological dynamics that are already at play in every sexual interaction, whether you are conscious of them or not. This is using what already exists. The only difference is that this time you play with strategic awareness. You are not the manipulated one. Think about it. Doesn't she respond to mystery? Doesn't she respond to authority? Doesn't she crave what is hard to get? Doesn't she hide secret fantasies? Doesn't she get bored when pleasure is always available? Yes, these are human predispositions, and when properly activated, they awaken the most powerful desire. She operates by instinct without thinking about the rules. You, by understanding the rules, now have the opportunity to become conscious, to be strategic, to be intentional in how you ignite and maintain that fire. It's not about being a predator. It's about becoming a master in the art of attraction. Silence speaks when words fall quiet. Do you feel it? That emptiness that remains when the illusion fades, when you understand that she never loved you as you believed, that everything was a mirage built on your own needs. That emptiness is your first step towards freedom. That emptiness is the door through which the monster you have always been will emerge. You are now standing before an existential scalpel that can separate the man you pretended to be from the man you always were inside. Cutting hurts, it bleeds, it scars. But whoever doesn't have the courage to feel that cut remains trapped forever in the labyrinth of their own emotional mediocrity, begging for crumbs of attention, chasing ghosts, inhaling the ashes of desires they never dared to ignite. There is a price you pay for comfort, for false security, for avoiding rejection, and that price is your very life, wasted in lukewarmness, in almost, in maybe tomorrow. Meanwhile, other men, not necessarily better than you, simply braver, are enjoying the abundance you have only dreamed of. The invisible signal that makes them choose you is not a trick, it is not a technique. It is the embodiment of your authentic power. It is the man you are when no one is looking, when you are not pretending, when you are not asking permission to exist. It is that scent of contained danger, of tamed but not domesticated strength, of unyielding freedom. The path I have revealed to you is not for everyone. The weak will remain weak. The fearful will remain fearful. The mediocre will remain mediocre. But you who have come this far, who have felt that fire in your chest while reading these words, you can awaken. You can remember. Comment, "I choose to remember," if you have felt that inner call, that uncomfortable but liberating truth. And get ready, because this is just the beginning. The real journey begins when you close this video and decide to live, not as you were programmed, but as you were born to be, free, powerful, magnetic.